Heading into the draft, it's important for every fan base to understand how their prospect pool and the future of their franchise is doing. So in this video, we're going to look at each NHL team's top prospect before they hopefully select another elite level talent in the next couple of weeks. For the context of this video, we're going to define a prospect as a player who has not yet completed their full rookie season, and now we'll jump right into it. For the Anaheim Ducks, Sam Steele. Although he didn't top his 131-point output from last season, Steele still placed himself as the top offensive prospect in Anaheim's system. He scored 83 points in 54 WHL games this season, as well as capturing World Junior Gold with Canada. His all-around game is improving alongside his speed and hockey sense, so there is an outside chance he cracks the Ducks' opening night roster this fall. For the Arizona Coyotes, Dylan Strome. One of the most highly debated prospects in the game, the 21-year-old has been taking the slow path to the NHL. He scored 53 points in 50 AHL games this year, and he didn't really look out of place in his NHL call-ups either. Whether it's next season or not, expect the 6'3" skilled center to make an impact on the NHL eventually. For the Boston Bruins, Ryan Donato. After lighting up for Harvard University and Team USA at the Olympics, Donato jumped right into the Bruins lineup and scored 9 points in 12 games. I think he definitely could have been used more in the playoffs, but he definitely has the skills and the awareness to be a top 9 player in the league next season. For the Buffalo Sabres, Casey Mittelstadt. One of the most dynamic offensive prospects and my highly debated top prospect in the world, Mittelstadt will find success right away next season with the Sabres, and adding Dahlin's skill set certainly won't hurt his case either. The Calgary Flames, Juuso Valimaki. He had another great season in the WHL with the Tri-City Americans this year, but don't expect him in the NHL this fall. He's a big defenseman who can play on both sides of the puck, but it's likely he sees some time in the AHL next year. Carolina Hurricanes, Martin Necas. Expect Necas to be a top 2 center next season for the Hurricanes. He's basically NHL ready after continuing his development against professional competition in Czech Republic this season, and he dazzled against his own age group in the World Juniors. Necas will be a top player next season on Carolina. For the Chicago Blackhawks, Dylan Sikura. Chicago's pipeline is getting a little thin, but they were able to sign one of the top college players in Dylan Sikura after drafting him in 2014. He's a crafty playmaker who should be effective next season as he adjusts to the professional game. For the Colorado Avalanche, Cale Makar. Makar held his own last season playing in the Hockey East, scoring 21 points in 34 games. He truly showcased his potential when he was among the best players at the World Juniors, winning the gold and being named to the tournament All-Star team. Although he's staying at UMass next season, he'll 100% be NHL ready whenever he decides to leave school. The Columbus Blue Jackets, Gabriel Carlsson. At 6'5", the blue liner has a lot of potential moving forward. He's only played in a handful of NHL games so far, and he spent most of last season in the AHL, but expect him to take a major jump forward this fall. He's still just 21 years old, but there's a good chance he'll be anchoring the Blue Jackets' bottom pair when opening night rolls around. For the Dallas Stars, Miro Heiskanen. One of the most skilled players from last year's draft, Miro Heiskanen fell to the Stars like a gift. He played well in the Finnish Pro League this season and will be coming over to North America next season. Whether that's in the NHL or the AHL is to be determined, but at just 18 years old, there's certainly no rush. For the Detroit Red Wings, Michael Rasmussen. The Wings' prospect pool is still pretty weak, as a 6'6" power forward isn't the ideal top prospect in your organization. I'm not 100% sure what to think of Rasmussen yet, but he did have another solid season in the WHL, scoring above a point per game, which is a must for a big man trying to break into the league. I still see him as a bottom 6 center, but with this frame, I think he could be the next Brian Boyle. For the Edmonton Oilers, Kailer Yamamoto. Yamamoto has the skill on the wing that the Oilers are in desperate need of. They tried to keep him up all of last season, but in the end they realized it was straining his development. He lit up the WHL when he was sent back, and because it's the Oilers, expect him to stick with the big club all of next season. For the Florida Panthers, Henrik Borgstrom. A national champion at the University of Denver, Borgstrom possesses unique offensive talent that brings fans out of their seats. You've definitely seen his highlight reel goals by now, so expect more to come next season when he gets comfortable as a Florida Panther. For the LA Kings, Cale Clegg. Clegg strikes me as a Ryan Ellis type defenseman. He's undersized but skates really well and can play an elite two-way game. I think he's overlooked a lot when you watch him play, but as he spends a couple years pro, just like Ryan Ellis did, gradually he become more and more standout. For the Minnesota Wild, Kirill Kaprizov. Nearly a point per game player for the second year in a row in the KHL, Kaprizov will play in the NHL in 2020. You can already argue that he's the best player outside the NHL, except for maybe Rasmus Dahlin, so just think about how much room for improvement he still has over the next 2 years. This is going to be much like the Evgeny Kuznetsov KHL watch from a couple of years ago, but just like how that ended up. For the Montreal Canadiens, Ryan Poehling. His development in the NCAA has been easy to track from his freshman to his sophomore season. His point totals jumped from 13 to 31, and he will be returning once again to St. Cloud State next year. However, as a 6'2" center, the Canadiens will want him on their team as soon as possible, so expect it to happen as soon as his junior season wraps up. For the Nashville Predators, Eeli Tolvanen. Tolvanen broke teenage records in the KHL and the Olympics this past season, but was used sparingly when he finally came over to Nashville. That will change next season as he competes through an entire NHL training camp. He should have a top 6 role in the Predators next season and can help the team get back to the Stanley Cup final they belong in. For the New Jersey Devils, Michael McLeod. As a Mississauga boy, it hurts me to say that I'm not 100% sold on Mikey McLeod as an NHL player. He's done decently well in the OHL, but he's never been standout at any World Junior tournament. I still believe he's miles ahead of any other Devils prospect, but he still needs to prove he belongs on the team, so we'll see how he does as a pro next season. For the New York Islanders, Ilya Sorokin. At just 22 years old, Ilya Sorokin has already posted 3 dominant seasons in the KHL. He's widely considered one of the best goaltending prospects in the world, but recently signed a KHL extension through 2020, so don't expect to see him until then, but just know that when he arrives, the Islanders will have their goaltending situation answered. For the New York Rangers, Elias Anderson. The 19-year-old Swede spent the majority of the season in the AHL with Hartford, but looks to be NHL ready next season. He's a skilled yet gritty player, but Anderson will need to have an impressive rookie season for people to forget about his infamous medal toss. For the Ottawa Senators, Logan Brown. Brown had a solid season in the OHL after his 4-game NHL stint at the start of the year. At 6'6", the center made huge strides this season and should find a role in the top 9 as a Senator this fall. For the Philadelphia Flyers, Carter Hart. Carter Hart had the best season in the history of the WHL this year with a .947 save percentage and a 1.6 goals against average across 41 games played. Like most goalies, he'll need to spend some time in the AHL developing, but at just 19 years old, Hart is viewed as the top goaltending prospect in the world. In the next 2 to 3 years, the Flyers will have their goalie for the next decade, if not more. For the Pittsburgh Penguins, Daniel Sprong. Pittsburgh is another team with a bit of a weaker prospect pool, but Daniel Sprong is certainly no slouch. He's a prolific scorer, and he found his touch this year in the AHL as he scored 32 goals and 65 points in 65 games. Although he only played 8 NHL games this year, I think Sprong will have a top 6 role in the Penguins next year and will thrive playing next to either Crosby or Malkin. For the San Jose Sharks, Josh Norris. As a freshman at the University of Michigan, Josh Norris scored 23 points in 37 games, a great output for a freshman. He's expected to stay in school for the next 2 years, but once he's out, expect him to be an elite 2-way player. For the St. Louis Blues, Robert Thomas. Last year's 20th overall pick had an unbelievable OHL season, capped off by leading the Hamilton Bulldogs to an OHL championship, defeating a stacked Sault Ste. Marie team. His playmaking abilities, hockey sense, and skating rank right up there with NHLers, so Robert Thomas could be forced in the Blues as soon as next season, but will eventually be a top 2 center in the NHL for a long time. The Tampa Bay Lightning, Cal Foote. One of the top 2-way defensive prospects in the game, Cal Foote surprisingly made Canada's World Junior Championship team last Christmas and impressed despite limited minutes. Even more surprising, Foote has never been labeled as a point-producing blue liner, but this season he racked up 70 points in 60 games for the Kelowna Rockets. So Foote is showing signs of his offensive game improving, but either way, his 6'4" frame will allow him to dominate in his own end, just like his father did. For the Toronto Maple Leafs, Timothy Liljegren. After being hyped as a potential number 1 overall pick, Liljegren fell all the way to the Leafs at 17. However, it's clear where the hype came from. For such a young defenseman, he oozes skill and composure, and will definitely be an NHL defenseman one day, maybe even next year. He scored 17 points in 44 AHL games this year, destroying any record for an 18-year-old defenseman in the league. Toronto fans have nothing to worry about with Liljegren, as he still has the highest ceiling out of any player in their prospect pool. For the Vancouver Canucks, Elias Pettersson. This was an easy one, as Pettersson destroyed the Swedish League this year, and Vancouver fans made sure the entire hockey world heard about it. He looks to be the most elite offensive rookie coming in the league next fall, and will contribute considerably to Vancouver's young offensive core for years to come. For the Vegas Golden Knights, Cody Glass. Fittingly, Vegas' first ever draft pick is still their best prospect, as Cody Glass has certainly lived up to expectations so far. He had a monster season out west this year, scoring 102 points in 64 games. With his 6'2" frame, there's a solid chance he'll be a top 2 center on Vegas next year. For the Washington Capitals, Ilya Samsonov. Another top-tier Russian goaltending prospect, Ilya Samsonov has finished with at least a .925 save percentage in each of the last 3 seasons in the KHL. He's expected to come over to North America next season, but like most goalies will spend some time in the AHL, especially with Holtby and Grubauer ahead of him on the depth chart. That is assuming they sober up by October. For the Winnipeg Jets, Jack Roslovic. I think technically he played out his rookie season in his 31 games this season, but since he split time in the AHL too, I'm just going to keep him on here as their top prospect. He scored 14 points in 31 games in the show this year, and is just another high-end offensive talent who will continue to get better for the Jets, so kind of like half their team already. So who would you have changed? What would you like to see next? Let me know all these things and more in the comment section down below, and don't forget to subscribe if you enjoyed this video. I'd like to give a big shout out to my Patreon sponsor, Hockey Prospect Center. He makes great hockey content showcasing the future of the game, and I recommend you check out his channel. If you'd like to personally be able to choose video ideas, recommend something that you'd like to see, or be featured and promoted in every single video that I make, you can do so by donating just $1 to my Patreon for these benefits and more. Go to patreon.com/reapsfilms, or you can just click the link in my bio if you're interested. If you'd like to slide in my DMs, you can do so by following me on Twitter at reapsfilms. I will immediately follow you back, and you can also participate in polls and get updated on videos over there. If you've made it this far, thanks for watching guys, and I'll see you next time.